Rise figures are amazing. They're cheap, the quality's really good, and you can get them just about anywhere. But the one downside that we all have and everyone who collects figures is these terrible basic just black bases. You get the small ovals, big ovals, you get the circles, rectangles, and in the end, one thing that they all have in common is they're just plain and boring in comparison to the awesome characters. So in this video I'm going to show you how I've transformed this standard base for Rimuru Tempest into something amazing.
So first thing we need to do is measure the base. We need to check his leg position. I'm going to alter that slightly, and as well as draw around this on a little bit of MDF, which is about £10 for 4 A4 sheets from eBay. Nice and cheap, nice and quick to get. These 3D crystal rock formations are really going to help set it off and make it look like the cave that Rimuru was first in, back when he was just a slime. Using that oval shape, I took out some of the rough edges. I wanted to be a lot more organic and fit the theme of the cave itself, as well as making it a lot more interesting to look at. So I'm going to take the big chunk off at the front just to make it a lot easier to cut. I used this hand saw, a scalpel and a general box cutter just to get that shape and cut through the MDF. It was nice and easy. On top of that, I used a rotary tool just to smoothen off the edges a little bit. It is a little bit rough in places, but once we get everything on there, get that all painted, all the little bits and bobs on, and it's just going to look amazing. It's going to take away that rough edge and you won't even know that it's there. From next from that, we need to find a place to put Rimuru itself on. So I've got these 2 blocks of styrofoam with already holes cut out of them. They're a little bit thick, so I am going to thin them down, and then from there make sure that he fits in and start getting some of the base parts onto there and start building up the texture. So just laying down some PVA glue, getting the rock formations in, little bits of slate, little bits of stone, really fine gravel, just slowly building up the texture and getting a nice little set for Rimuru to sit in. He's sitting in there quite nicely, but there's still a lot more to do. I want to build it up a lot more, and I'll come back again and check to make sure he definitely fits in there. So here we have it. This is where it is at the moment. There's a lot of nice texture forming there. I think the position of everything is really nice. I reinforced the styrofoam with some toothpicks just to help support them little pegs in the base a little bit more. Styrofoam is quite soft, so I wanted something a little bit stronger there just to keep it nice in place. There's a lot of extra details and little bits we're going to have to fill in around the model as well as we go. The next step here is just adding on that little bit more gravel, a little bit more texture, some little bits of styrofoam, which will go and again make things a little bit more organic and not uniform. I like to have these mixed between all these different textures. A cave is very like that, it's all over the place. And as you can see, looks like Rimuru needs just that little bit more stability, so when we get to the next phase, I am going to add a little more stability to them sections. As you can see here, we've got the nice formation starting. All the texture on the floor is starting to come together. I will put some more onto the styrofoam there, and it's going to get ready the base. But first we're going to start getting on the milliput. I did get these crystal glasses, which I thought was going to be really nice to use and represent the crystals, but in the end they didn't quite work. Here we have the primer all down. It's like 2-quarter primer just to make sure I got a nice coverage. It looks really nice. You can start seeing all the details popping through, but there is sections we need to start filling out. So I've got my 2-part milliput. Just going to cut that down, mix it together, and then we can start molding that into shape. You don't need very much for this. I haven't used milliput that much, and I end up using a little bit too much, but it's fine. It can be used. I used it for other little bits later on. And here we go. I start getting my molding tool. A little bit of water really helps to spread this around, and there we go. I'm reinforcing where his feet are going to sit just that little bit more to make sure that he does not fall out. And adding these on, you do need to try to get some extra texture, and the perfect thing for that is getting some different shapes and size of rocks and stones, hitting that into the milliput, and then that makes it a hell of a lot more organic, and you get a nice stone texture with everything, so it blends in really nicely. And there we go, that's the milliput on, but there's still a lot more due to the base. So here we have some play sand just mixed in with PVA glue. I'm going to mix all that up, and that's going to fill in all them little nooks and crannies where you can't get paint into, you can't get the brush into, and it's just going to smooth a little path going all the way through. And I think it's really going to help build up the model to the final piece. This was my first time using this method, and I did put maybe a little bit too much PVA glue in, so it did take that little extra long to dry. But then I went back over, allowed it to soak up a little bit, and add some more texture rocks, as well as these awesome little tiny acrylic crystals, which I got for about £4 or £5 for 40 of them. Was a really good price. And then I added all them in, gives it a little more texture, and then I fully base coated it with a mixture of black and brown. Then I went back over that and started creating this nice little path using the brown, and then from there just slowly lightening it down, adding the highlights to it, and really making that little path pop. I then went over onto the rock formations using a nice dark grey, and then slowly lightening that up so it looks like the cave on the outside is starting to fade out a bit more to darkness. Working on the crystals, I put a nice couple of coats of white down, so that would really make the contrast blue paint really stand out. I had two paints I was going to use, but when I put the second one on, it just didn't sit right, so I got rid of that and just used the contrast blue all the way through. A couple of coats later, and it is looking spectacular. I had a little bit on the ground to create this puddle splash effect, which I think is going to work really well. It just needs a little extra bit of light blue dry brushing on it just to bring out the texture underneath, and then I'm going to put some realistic water over the top of it, which creates this nice glossy shiny puddle effect, just to give, again, overall give it a little bit more texture and a little more difference between all of our things that are going on around it. Now that's in and spread around, I'm adding a lot more highlights and details to the crystal to make them actually look like crystals and have that shine and sheen on the side. After that, and I've got some nice white highlights, I'm going to go over it with a nice 2 sections of paint from Citadel. Well, it's a glaze and technical. The glaze is going to give it that more deeper blue shine, and then the art coat will give it a nice glow kind of shine to it, like a really glossy shine to make it look like crystals of glass, which was going to really make it pop. On top of that, add a few extra little bits, highlights, little bits of moss and stuff, just to make it really pop and make it a lot better.